With FPV camera equipment, you can truly immerse yourself in the world of RC flight like never before. We're here to show you today some tips and tricks that we recommend for you when you're installing an FPV system in your aircraft. This will cover both systems from Fat Shark, like the system that we have on our Delta Ray here. It'll also cover the Ultra Micro system now available from Spectrum. So one of the first things, just to kind of talk about the system and how it works, and you can check out our other videos about FPV to learn more too. With the system that both Spectrum and Fat Shark have collaborated on, along with standalone Fat Shark systems, at least the ones available through Horizon Hobby, they're available on a 5.8 gigahertz frequency band. And what that means to all of you is the fact that it gets you up above and beyond what we use in our aircraft transmitters, like my DX9 that I have here. It operates on 2.4 gigahertz. With the Fat Shark system getting up at 5.8 gigahertz, gets you above and beyond a lot of the RF noise. In addition, it won't interfere with the frequency band in your transmitters and receivers. So that's one of the reasons we really feel that this is a superior solution for you wanting to fly FPV. And it's also one of the reasons why Spectrum partnered with Fat Shark for the Ultra Micro system. Now, whether you have the Ultra Micro system, as you see it here, it's so teeny tiny, or you have one of the larger systems available from Fat Shark, there are things that you do want to do when you are installing it in your aircraft. And since we do have the Delta Ray on the bench here, we're going to start with this one here. As you can see, and this system was actually installed on this aircraft by our good friend John Denise, so thank you, John, for doing that. We have your transmitter on the top of the fuselage along with your antenna. Now, one of the things, if you look here, you can see how there's a bend to the antenna. You always want this antenna to be as vertical as possible. The way that this signal works on this antenna is it goes out on a spherical nature, such as what you have here. So think of a drop of water, take a rock and drop it in water, and you get the little plooch when the ripples go out from the center. That's kind of how the signal works like on here. The video transmitter utilizes an omnidirectional antenna. There's even a really cool name for it called a spironet. It is not vertically or horizontally polarized, but the reason you don't want it sideways is that you have a null off of the very top and very bottom of the antenna. Think of the radiation pattern like a giant donut. It's going omnidirectionally in all directions, but the nulls off the top and the bottom are outside of the donut. If you have your head pointed down when you're trying to receive the signal from the video transmitter, it can lead to a situation where you unintentionally point the null right at your model. So you want this completely vertical, and the way that this is installed, it is both within range of the camera as far as the wiring harness and of the battery pack. For power, you do need to provide separate battery power to your transmitter here. The way that can work is a number of different ways depending on what system you have. Some of them you can plug a 2 to a 4S LiPo battery into the transmitter. I've done that myself on some of the systems. Other ones you can just plug into the balance plug on your flight battery and draw your power off that way. Again, the other thing too is you need to be able to connect your lead to your camera, which we have right here on the front. So that's how you mount the camera and the transmitter board on the aircraft itself, again, if you're using a system such as this. In addition to the system that we have mounted here on the Delta Ray, there's also the standalone Ultra Micro system, as you can see right here. See how teeny tiny that is? Not the final version, this is a prototype, but this 3D printed case and everything too, pretty cool. So what's nice is this setup here takes this system and puts it all in one. But due to its size, it also has a reduced range. A couple hundred feet is what you're looking at. So that's something to keep in mind with whether or not to go with a system like this or a system like this. Where do you want to fly? How do you want to fly? Again, there's also no license required either. So with this system here, one of the main things, again, is it's developed for ultra micro aircraft. Ultra micro aircraft are already super light just due to their construction. When you are adding something like this onto it, you are changing the weight bias and balance of your aircraft. So you want to be very cognizant of the CG or the C of G, your center of gravity. With a larger airplane such as this, because it is larger, you've got a little bit bigger margin for error as far as mounting things properly. Again, John did a great job mounting everything on here. Now say I was going to take and I was going to mount this on an Ultramicro P51. You know, that's a very lightweight aircraft, and it may take me a few times of playing around with positioning to get my CG right. One of the cool things is Park Zone and E-flite in their Ultramicros, they do have instructions for how to check your CG right in the manual. I highly recommend, if you are going to fly FPV, that you check that out. Same thing with this antenna versus this antenna as far as the way that it works. If you do fly behind trees or anything along those lines, you may get some sort of signal breakup. Again, low power system and relatively line of sight. If there is anything that comes between you and your transmitter, really this is your transmitter as far as the camera goes, it can cause a flickering or an interference. You'll also want to test things out before you fly. Take your aircraft, power up the camera and everything, and just walk around the area where you're going to plan on flying. That way you make sure that there's no interference on the RF bands in your area where you are going to fly. It also helps verify that you've got a good line of sight on your camera and the way that it's mounted and positioned. You don't want to be looking straight down at the fuselage the whole time if you mount it at the down angle on your canopy. You also don't want it looking straight skyward if you've got it on the back side. So you'll have to play around with positioning to get not only the best balance, but also the best camera view. In addition, much like the larger scale one, you want to make sure that you can mount this in a position where it can easily get power from whatever you're going to utilize. If you're going to use a Y harness and power this off of your main flight battery, or if you are going to utilize a second battery just to power your camera. Just be very aware of that, just so that you know what's going on. You'd hate to have this mounted, everything, it looks perfect, you've got your CG right, and you have no way to power the system. I haven't done that one yet. I'm sure that I will at some point in time though. FPV is a great and a fun way to get involved in flying, and these are just a few tips and tricks that we've developed, and we're going to be coming out with even more on FPV as it evolves, develops, and honestly, we learn more as well. If you do have any comments or questions about anything that you've seen here today, if you want to learn more about FPV, we invite you to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Horizon Hobby. You can also follow Spectrum on Facebook at facebook.com/SpectrumRC. With Spectrum leading the charge, not only in the radio technology, but now in the world of ultra-micro FPV, that is a great place to find information, both on the Horizon Hobby and the Spectrum Facebook pages. You can also like this video and subscribe to our channel. That'll help keep you up to date on the latest and greatest that we have coming out here. We're going to have flight videos coming, installation tips and tricks beyond this, other do's and don'ts. Great information coming out about FPV in the weeks, months, and years to follow. So make sure you click the subscribe button there. And finally, if you do have any comments or questions about anything that you've seen here today or anything RC in general, please, as always, feel free to email us at editors@horizonrc.com. We read every email, we respond to every email, and it's one of those things with FPV, it's a new technology. We are expecting people to have a ton of questions. Make sure that you go out and you have fun, not only with hobbies, but with FPV in a responsible fashion, and it's something that we are only going to see develop and grow more into bigger and better things down the road. Again, for Horizon Hobby, I am Gary Katzer. Make sure that you go out and have some fun with hobbies, and we will see you at the flying field.